What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show, sponsored by BetMGM. I am your host, Josh Harris, and on this random Friday, we have a 10-game slate, and joining me to break it down, as always, is Slim Cliffy. How you doing today, Cliffy?
Oh, not too bad. It is a weird, it is a weird schedule quirk the NHL's got going on here. I don't mind having a big slate like this on a Friday. It's nice to, I don't know, just kind of change things up every once in a while. I just wish that they keep big slates on Tuesdays and Thursdays as well. Like every Tuesday, Thursday, it just becomes kind of a ritual. It's nice to have a little bit of a change up here. Twice the games to break down that we did yesterday. I didn't do so well yesterday. My forward stacks kind of did fine. I managed to fit in a Toronto power play stack, Sans Marner, who wired a goal last night to extend his point streak to 21 games. Had them with the Winnipeg top line. Cole Perfidi scored an empty netter to kind of drag them to respectability, but my defensemen and my goalies did absolutely nothing. I think I got like 10 points combined from them, so not really a great night. Pretty good night for the Dallas defensemen. Miro Heiskanen had 24 points. Nils Lundqvist had 19. Tyler Seguin scored that overtime winner, left alone in front of the net in 3-on-3 overtime. It's kind of a broken play. Like, I think he fell and was left behind the play or whatever, and there was a turnover. But you probably shouldn't leave Tyler Seguin alone in front in overtime. That would just be my coaching tip to the Ottawa Senators. But yeah, not a great night for me. First big $5 MME last night. Saw your Twitter post. Didn't go the way you had hoped, did it?
Well, here's the thing, right? There's a couple things. There's some good news. There's some bad news. The good news is I made 150 lineups, and they were actually all unique. Like, in Fantasy Cruncher, I don't know, maybe a couple of them were duped, but bad news is I only cashed 17. The really bad news is I couldn't figure out copy and paste in Excel, so I had to manually enter the 150 one at a time. Whew.
And for viewers that haven't known you for a long time, I've known you for quite a few years now. Copy and pasting problems is nothing new in your world. So maybe we'll have we'll put up a copy and paste evergreen video post on the Stokastic DFS channel just for you.
Yeah, copy and paste is my kryptonite. A few years ago, when me and the guy from Line Matching we're at another site, I used to write my articles on my iPhone in the Notes tab, and I highlighted everything and hit cut, and I thought the article was deleted for like 30 minutes. I was like so tilted, and then he was like, "It's still there. Just paste it." I didn't know when I pasted it. It was like the best thing ever. Copy and paste.
It's an ongoing process. Yeah. Life is a journey. It's all about learning new things as we go along.
And then I realized after lock that I was highlighting the wrong cells in Excel. So
I guess I should have added that to my Fantasy Cruncher video.
Yeah, it's like, but it was my mistake for putting in a dummy lineup. Next time I'll just leave it blank. So all I have to do is just, when you load up the entries, it's just like a nice big blank screen, and I'll just paste it in there. But we're not here to talk about my copy and paste problems. Although
I mean, I am.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. And listen, I talk a lot of smack. So if you want to come at me, copy and paste is the way to go. But yeah, we got a 10-gamer. Goalies. Wow, just hit puberty apparently. Voice crack. Goalies are quite a scene tonight. There's some really high road totals. Let's get into it. Before we do, make sure you like and subscribe so you can keep up with all of our shows. DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. Don't forget, almost all of our content is available in podcast form on the platform of your choice. Help us out by leaving a 5-star review. Leave a review. Talk about copy paste. I'll know it's you. It's better than talking about the size of my head. Let's get into it, shall we? First game, quite a banger here. We have a 7 over-under in this one. Pittsburgh Penguins with a 3.7 total heading into Buffalo. The Tage Thompsons have a 3.2 total. Tristan Yarry is confirmed. Craig Anderson is probable. Tage Thompson up to 8,700, on DraftKings after his 70-point DK performance the other night. On a line with Tuck and Skinner. That line is really expensive now, and they're coming in with double-digit ownership. I don't want to say this is the worst matchup, but it's not the best one either. It's kind of middle of the pack. It's definitely not playing against the empty net like they were against Columbus the other night. They're probably going to see some sort of top six in for Pittsburgh here. Pittsburgh coming in with lower ownership on the road with a higher total. And I just, despite, the Sabres laying pipe the other night, I think, the Penguins are in a pretty good spot. The Sabres aren't very good defensively. Push comes to shove. I'll take the lower ownership. I'll take the road team and the higher total here. What are you doing?
Yeah, Pittsburgh was a team that I had highlighted in my picks article that I wrote today for Stokastic up at Stokastic.com. Head on over to the NHL section. It's free for everyone to read. I did write up Sidney Crosby, and I also wrote up the Pittsburgh top line as a stack in this game. One of the reasons I wrote up Crosby is there's a lot of high scoring around the league. I mean, you just mentioned Tage Thompson's 70-point DK banger. Right at the start of the show, I mentioned Mitch Marner's 21-game point streak. Jason Robertson had like an 18-game point streak. I think Kirill Kaprizov is up to like 13 or 14 games or something like that. Connor McDavid is averaging almost 2 points a game. We'll talk about him a little bit later. So it's some players are getting kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit. Sidney Crosby's having his best offensive season, at least so far, in the last 10 years. I don't think people kind of realize just how good he's been. 15 goals, 35 points in 26 games. That works out to like 115-point or 120-point season or something like that. He's doing exceptionally well. And what I highlighted in that article is it's without doing much on the power play. His power play production per minute this year is about half his 3-year average from 2019 to 2022. So if the Pittsburgh power play can ever pull itself together, Crosby has a chance to go, absolutely nuclear. It's just the Pittsburgh power play has legitimately been awful. Last in the league over the last month. It hasn't mattered whether it's been Chris Letang or Jeff Petrie or running double defensemen on the top unit or whatever. Nothing has changed their results. It's just been awful. But the 5-on-5 line, that top line for the Penguins has been unbelievable. Not quite 5 goals in one game like Tage Thompson, but still pretty good. Their last 115 minutes together, 4.6 expected goals for, only 3.5 goals for, which is still really good. It's not super elite, still really good. Shooting under 10%, though. That's kind of the problem. And the power play is the other issue is, Rickard Rakell was moved to the top power play unit. He has been, pretty good this season, but again, you want some extra power play production. The good news is Buffalo's penalty kill, not really that good, right? That's, I'd say there are a handful of weaknesses on the Buffalo team. One of them has definitely been their PK over the last month, 6th most shots allowed, bottom 10 by goals allowed. The penalty kill is not very good. So if there is ever a spot where the Pittsburgh power play can finally drag themselves out of hell, it seems like this one. And as we always talk about, the Buffalo top line really likes trading chances back and forth. Over 3 expected goals against in their last 100 minutes together. So I'm with you. I do like the Pittsburgh top line here in this matchup. They're probably going to be a lot higher owned on FanDuel. Like, I think their price on FanDuel is just a little over $20K, which is actually pretty cheap on that site. They'll be much less owned on DraftKings, so it might depend where you play. But I agree. Like, I do like the spot here for the Pittsburgh top line. So I'm on Pittsburgh 1. If you want to add in Malkin or something and take out Raquel, make it an extra power play stack, add a double center, do something like that, I think that's perfectly fine. But it's Pittsburgh 1 for me. On the Buffalo side, like, I think you're fine to go right back to that second line, right? Like, I know Dylan Cousins is really starting to get priced up, but I think 5,600 for what he's doing is pretty reasonable. And I don't think it's just a hot streak. Like, a lot of his scoring chance creation numbers, some numbers I look at outside of what we offer on the site are really, really good for this year, like in line with Sidney Crosby himself. So, that Quinn Peterka Cousins line has been dynamic offensively. They don't play a ton. They don't get the power play minutes. Only Cousins does, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't mind Quinn Cousins Peterka as a line. I think I would probably prefer like a duo stack. I know it kind of sucks to leave one guy off, but go like Cousins and Quinn or something like that. I don't mind Buffalo too against this Pittsburgh depth, but I think it's the Pittsburgh top line I like most in this game.
Yeah, I agree on that take. Pittsburgh won, obviously my favorite in this game. You can go back to Buffalo 1 if you want, but like double-digit ownership on a 10-game slate, it kind of feels like if you were off them the other night, you're like jumping on a bandwagon that's already left. And you're just always just going to be chasing the wagon. There's maybe there is a way, but there almost feels like there's no way he's going to come close to 70 DK points tonight. Knocking some wood. So yeah, I'm probably going to be off Buffalo 1 in my 1 to 3, but like going back there is perfectly fine. There's a bunch of really expensive lines on the slate. There's ways to fit them in, but going back to Buffalo 2, I think is perfectly fine. Yari's been shaky at times this year. The Pittsburgh penalty kill is not great, and you get Cousins on the top power play, who is involved on the power play. He's just not, a guy like Hagel on the power play, for example. Like Cousins actually does get involved. You probably can fit them in if you punt defenseman and goalie with Edmonton 1, which we'll get to later. So yeah, if you're going that route, I think Buffalo 2 is definitely in play. On the blue line here, I think Petrie's fine at 5,300. Pedersen, I guess, is okay. He's kind of starting to creep up into the high threes, which is a little bit too expensive for my taste, but I think it's fine. On the Buffalo side, Rasmus Dahlin, fine at 7,200. Owen Power, Matthias Samuelsson, Henry Jokiharju, depending on your, cost tolerance there.
Yeah, the thing with Owen Power for me is that he's not really putting up much for peripherals, right? 34 shots in 26 games, 31 blocks in 26 games. That's really not that much. Matthias Samuelsson can definitely get you some blocks. He does play like 22, 23 minutes or whatever. I think I like Samuelsson amongst the cheap guys for Buffalo. If you need to go even cheaper, Jokiharju is fine for sure. Jeff Petrie's probably a guy I'd prefer on FanDuel. He's pretty cheap over on FD tonight, just 4,600. His DK price is fine, but I think it makes more sense to play him on FanDuel.
Yeah, agreed there. Let's move on to the next one. New York Islanders with a 2.5 total. Heading into Newark, New Jersey. Pretty awful. The Devils have a 3.5 total. Ilya Sorokin, Vitek Vanacek, probable. I mean, okay. If this game was on Long Island and the Islanders were home and they could dictate matchups, maybe I'd have some interest here. But with New Jersey being home and being able to dictate matchups in this game, and them having the blue line that they do, I don't think, Jonas Siegenthaler isn't a household name for DFS, but he's legitimately having a Norris-type season, and nobody really talks about it. His numbers are incredible from a defensive standpoint. So, from 1 to 3 lineups, I'm probably just out on the Islanders. The more lineups I get to in MME, maybe if they get in organically, then I'll leave it. On the Devils side, I'm not a huge fan of stacking against Sorokin now. He did get bombed the other night. Bad games happen to goalies, but the Islanders don't take too many penalties. Their penalty kill is pretty good. I think if anything, I'd full stack one of the top 2 lines.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Islanders not taking penalties. Only 3.1 times shorthanded per game. That's below average. The average is 3.3, I think. And New Jersey doesn't really draw a lot of power plays either. 3.2 power play opportunities per game for the Devils. That's also below average. They may be playing a lot of 5-on-5 here tonight, which actually might not be a bad thing for the Devils. Their power play is not great. It's good, but it's certainly not like a Boston or Colorado when they actually have players in the lineup. Yeah, I do like this matchup for the Devils' top line. Actually, their top 2 lines really have really good matchups. It's the ever-present problem of Ilya Sorokin, right? Yeah, he did get bombed out, but he's still been arguably the best goalie in the league this year. I think him and Connor Hellebuck kind of won too on the season. And that Islanders top line with Josh Bailey there, surprise, surprise, not really that good defensively. 3.1 expected goals against per 60 minutes. It's the same as the Buffalo top line that we just talked about that said was a good matchup for Pittsburgh. The problem is 1.3 goals against, again, because Sorokin's absolutely, just a mutant in net. But it is a good match for that New Jersey top line, and they have been very good together. 4.1 expected goals for, which is absurd. 4.2 actual goals for, so right in line with what they're generating. Not playing a ton, which is kind of the problem. Like Jesper Bratt's down around 17 minutes. Even Nico Hischier's only, around 19 minutes over the last couple of weeks, which, we've seen him around 21 minutes a game in recent games. But they have been absolutely dynamite together. I think they're fine to just play them as a full three-man, leave Tatar in there. It's not as if Tatar is that expensive. The price on the line is very reasonable. So I do like Devils 1. Devils 2 is kind of interesting. Since Dawson Mercer moved there and they took Jesper Bratt off, I don't think it'd be a surprise to know that they're generating a lot less offensively. The difference is the shooting percentage. Like, I think they're shooting over 15% as a line. That's why they're like, their offensive numbers are actually good, but that's something that's going to regress. Like, it won't stay above 15%. You know what I mean? So that's a problem. Jack Hughes has seen a little bit of ice time decline as well, which is a little bit of an issue. And he's only at 3.4 shots per game over his last 10 games. Earlier in the season, when we were loving to play Jack Hughes, it was because he was, shooting 4.3, 4.5 shots per game. Losing a full shot per game off your total, 1.5 points on DK doesn't sound like a lot. But when you start doing that game after game, it can certainly build up. So I don't have any problems playing with the New Jersey second line. You do get two guys on the top power play unit. They are cheaper. It is a good matchup going into that Islanders second line. They're not very good defensively either. But I think it's the Devils top line I like better, just because they are generating more. You're probably going to get more minutes from Bratt than you will from Mercer. Tatar's been pretty good in his own right. I think he's been a little bit better than Eric Hollis. So New Jersey 1 for me. I agree with you. Nothing on the Islanders side.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to say? Let's move to the blue line. Islanders have some issues, like injuries on the blue line too. So there's a bunch of cheap fellas there, but I don't really want to play them. I think I am taking a pass on the full Islanders team outside of Sorokin. I have no interest in their blue line. On the Devil side, Dougie coming off a monster game. I think he's fine. He can obviously get the peripherals, he can score. So if you're doing Devils, I think correlating's there. Otherwise, Marino or Ryan Graves, John Marino. They're fine. I'm just not running out to play them in this matchup.
Yeah. Dougie Hamilton on FanDuel is pretty 900. I think it makes a lot of sense to play him over on FanDuel, where he's been priced down. The one defenseman that's actually really sticking out for me in this game is Sebastian Aho, the other Sebastian Aho, the one. Yeah, you'll see his name start with a 5 in some projections, just to separate him from the Carolina center. With Adam Pelech out, he played 19 minutes last game, which is really unusual for him. He's usually around 15, 16. And I think he's a good offensive defenseman. He just gets hidden at the bottom of the Islanders lineup game in and game out. So if he's going to play 19 minutes, I don't mind Sebastian Aho if you need a full punt on DraftKings here tonight.
Yeah, I can dig that. Seattle Kraken with a 2.9 total heading into Washington. The Capitals have a 3.1 total. Philip Grubauer, Charlie Lindgren confirmed. I'll come out and say it. If there were good goalies in this game, I'd have nothing on either side. But because Philip Grubauer and Charlie Lindgren are starting, I think you have to consider both sides here. Ovechkin hit the empty net twice the other night. It's like the A-Rod of NFL or out of NHL, just useless empty net goals unless you played them, obviously. But I think, on the Capital side, I'm going to do what I always do with them. It would be some sort of power play stack. I think, Oshie is still a good price at 3,900. Kuznetsov is fair price at 4,700. Ovechkin fine at 7,600, not getting a lot of ownership. On the Seattle side, I would probably just full stack one of the top two lines. I have a personal preference of McCann, Beniers, Eberle, but if you like, the Wenberg Burakovsky line with now Bjorkstrand up there, I think that's fine as well.
Yeah, I think if I was to play something from Seattle, I agree with you. It would be that McCann, Beniers, Eberle line. The reason for that being they'll probably see a reasonable amount of that Milano, Kuznetsov, Oshie line. They have not been that good defensively. 3.1 expected goals against, 3.7 actual goals against. So that's where that goaltending you were talking about is kind of coming into play here. I do think it's a decent matchup for that Seattle second line of McCann, Beniers, Eberle, not coming in with a ton of ownership either. We have them under 2% on DraftKings here tonight, which is, good leverage for them. A little bit higher on FanDuel, but still under 4%. Like, even if you don't want to full stack them, I think, just a two-man stack of McCann and Eberle, because these guys are on the top power play unit. I think that makes complete sense. So, I don't mind them in that matchup. I think it's the Washington top line. I'll say top line, but I'm kind of leaning towards some sort of power play stack for the Caps. The reason for that is not that Seattle takes a lot of penalties. It's actually only 2.9 times shorthanded per game. That's really not a lot. But the Seattle penalty kill has really taken a nosedive over the last month or so. A lot of it goaltending related. I don't think anybody will be surprised by that. And what I mentioned in that picks article, again, free to read up at Stokastic.com, I wrote about Evgeny Kuznetsov, him joining the top power play unit for Washington was the impact of TJ Oshie. Since TJ Oshie has come back, that Washington power play is generating something close to 30% more shot attempts than they were without him. That's a lot. That is really significant. I think it kind of speaks to, a little bit of familiarity having Oshie back there instead of Marcus Johansson. He was in Washington, but that was like 6 years ago. It speaks to a little bit of familiarity, a little bit better playmaking, a goal scoring option for them other than Ovechkin on that power play. With that pretty bad Seattle penalty kill, I think some sort of Washington power play stack makes a lot of sense here. You can do like Ovechkin, Strome, and Oshie, or Ovechkin, Kuznetsov and Oshie, or something like that. I think the two guys that I would probably try to include are Ovechkin and Kuznetsov in most stacks, but put Dylan Strome there. He's going to play with Ovechkin at 5-on-5, and they're playing well at 5-on-5 on top of that. So don't mind McCann, Beniers, Eberle. I think they're a good contrarian-ish type stack, particularly on DraftKings if you're playing a bunch of lineups. But I think it's some sort of Washington power play stack that's really appealing to me here.
Yep. Agreed. On the blue line here, Carlson keeps on rolling, 6,900, fine price. Like Trevor Van Riemsdyk with Orlov still out, and the guy Ferravary still out. I think he sees a tick up in minutes. He's fine for 2,600. On the Seattle side, Vinny Dunn, Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak. If you have a lean, play the lean.
Yeah, I don't really know how much I like the Seattle defenseman here, because the Washington penalty kill, for any of the problems that Washington has had, their penalty kill has been legitimately great for weeks now. And it's not like Seattle power play is one of those, Boston or Colorado type power plays either. So, probably not going to be playing Dunn or Schultz. If anything from the Seattle side, beats cheaper guys like maybe Jamie Alexiak, the old big rig again. He likes jumping into the play. Don't mind him. I agree with you on probably TVR or Jensen. I kind of lean Jensen. I'm pretty confident in him being able to put up some shot blocks, but I think this is a decent spot for John Carlson again. Let's hope he can do something.
Yep, agreed there. As we mentioned off the top, we are sponsored by BetMGM, and we can get you a BetMGM bet risk-free up to $1,000 and 2 months of Stokastic Platinum for free. If your risk-free bet loses, a refund will be issued in site credit. You've heard me say it. Very easy to sign up. You need a free Stokastic membership. If you have one, just log in. Then you click the BetMGM button and complete the necessary steps with BetMGM, like make a sportsbook account. It's not very hard. You got to deposit at least $10. You can get a risk-free bet from $10 to $1,000, depending on what you want to bet. You make your bet. Your bet must settle to qualify for the Stokastic subscription. After all that is done, which is like 24 hours of stuff, very not involved. Look at that face, man. That's a face for radio on your screen. After you've completed these steps, you will receive an email from BetMGM Sportsbook, not Stokastic, BetMGM, with instructions for redeeming your 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Click the link in the description for more details and sign up. I can't stress enough, if you're going to do this, click the link in the description. Let's get that face off our screen and move to the next game. Calgary, 3.8 total. Heading into Columbus, the Blue Jackets have a 2.6 total. Calgary Flames have the highest total on the night. It is a road total in Columbus. We saw Columbus just get absolutely ran over in slow motion, like in, what's that movie? Austin Powers. Here we are with the Flames conundrum again. Like, I want to go back to the Flames top line. They're pretty nice price. They're not getting massive ownership, like 6% is fine. I just feel like they leave a lot to be desired. Now, the Flames called up Matthew Phillips, who was leading the AHL in points, and stuck him with Milan Lucic and Trevor Lewis. You're better off just leaving him in the AHL if you're going to do that. He has better line mates down there. Put him in the top 6 with Kadri and Mangiapane, you muppet. I do like Calgary one here. Columbus swapped their lines. Nyquist is up on the top line with Jenner and Gaudreau. Line A with Roslovic and Yegor Chinakhov. So I'm probably like Jenner and Gaudreau have good numbers together anyway, but like Nyquist is nothing for me. This is a fairly tough matchup. This is Calgary one for me.
Yeah. When I saw Matthew Phillips playing with Milan Lucic, what I thought of was that Seinfeld episode when Kramer has to pay off a debt and he does it in pennies, and then he just heaves the sack of pennies at a guy and sends him flying backwards. That's kind of what I feel like. Like Matthew Phillips showed up at morning skate today and they just heaved Milan Lucic at him and said good luck. Yeah, you don't have to worry about Phillips tonight, obviously playing on the fourth line, but yeah, he had 30 points in 20 AHL games. A lot of prospect people I follow thought he should have been up there last year. So we'll see if he can stick around and work his way up the lineup. It's interesting that they have Gus Nyquist on the top line because obviously it's a pretty big defensive upgrade over Patrick Laine. And it works out in the numbers as well. Only 2.7 expected goals against and 120 minutes together for the top line. This Columbus top line this season. Nyquist did play there quite a bit when Laine was hurt. 3.6 actual goals against because of the Columbus goaltending. Not that much better than the Seattle goaltending. And that's the issue here. But I think it is, a quote, tough matchup, at least a 5-on-5 for that Calgary top line, Huberdeau, Lindholm, Toffoli. And as we mentioned on the last show when we had Calgary, like they're generating a lot of shot attempts, but the quality is pretty bad. And the last couple Flames games I watched, like that matched the eye test. Like, we're talking about like crossing the blue line, taking wrist shots from, near the boards from the top of the circles, or, just jamming shots from the blue line. Not a lot of like cross ice one-time passes or like down low out front passes, that type of thing that you see a lot of the real top scoring lines do. Maybe they just need some more chemistry, but I mean, since they got reassembled there a few games ago, 2.4 expected goals for, 2 goals for, like that. That's basically what that top line has been doing all season. And until I see them do more, I don't really think I'm going to jump in and play them. So I'll be honest here and say that I like the Calgary second and third lines better than the Calgary top line here tonight. Now, Calgary 2 is coming in with a fair bit of ownership, but they do have a good projection. Like they're projecting for over 30 DraftKings points as a trio, not far off from the entire Columbus top line, right? So, if you want to leave Dubé off, that's fine. Just go Kadri Mangiapane, or, just put Kadri Dubé, leave Mangiapane off or something. I would probably leave Kadri there because of the power play minutes, but, some 2-man there. I don't even mind the third line. Like Backlund, Coleman have been really good for Calgary this season. And I actually wrote up Blake Coleman in that picks article today as like a cheap, one-off winger that people can use. His ice time has gone up about 1.5 minutes over the last few weeks. That's led to more shots, more points. The line is controlling 62% of the expected goals when they're on the ice. When Columbus's top line is off the ice, when Jenner and Gaudreau are off the ice, Columbus's goals against rate is over 4. I think this is a pretty good match. Like, I'm not going to say it's a bad idea to play any Calgary line except for the fourth line here tonight. I think this is just a situation where I'd be looking to save some money, and it would be probably the second or third lines. I don't mind. I don't even mind a 2-man of like Backlund and Coleman or something like that. So I agree with you. Not in on Columbus in this game. It would be more Calgary, like 2-man depth stacks for me, I think.
Yeah. I think, like Calgary one's been bad, like you mentioned, but like Columbus has been taking a lot of penalties the last few games, and my God, has their penalty kill gotten thrashed. So I kind of like, if in MME, I think going to the Flames one is also fine, since they're all on the top power play. On the blue line, on the Columbus side, I think Gavrikov's fine or Goodbranson's fine. On the Calgary side, Rasmus Anderson's been like lights out for some reason, which is fine. He's 5,200 on the top power play. No, Hannafin's still doing the thing. I guess you could play Weegar at 4K, but I'd rather play the other two.
Yeah. Anderson, I mean, I think Anderson's just a pretty good defenseman, and he's earning a lot of minutes of late as well. So I think he's probably the guy I would play even with Hannafin's peripherals. And, Columbus's penalty kill has been getting a little bit worse. I don't think that'd be really surprising to anybody that's been watching that team. So I do like Anderson here. If you want to pay, save some money, go down to Weegar. I think that's fine. Are we going back to Eric Branson? Like he's been the one leading Columbus in minutes. Like he actually had like a 4-shot game a few games ago. He's been putting up, some blocks. Like I think Branson is one of the cheap defensemen that I like most here tonight. Like he'd be like in the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, and let's transition the Erica Branson talk to Cliffy's favorite line, the Blackhawks top line, the Winnipeg Jets with a 3.2 total. Heading into Chicago, the Blackhawks have a 2.8 total. Big Save Dave is probable. Arvid Soderblom confirmed. Winnipeg back-to-back on the road. Jonathan Toews is back in the lineup tonight. He's on the top line with Anthony Ciu and Patty Kane. Second line of Philip Kurashev, Max Domi, Taylor Radish. Blackhawks top line projected for 31 DK points. Just, every morning they're on the slate. Cliffy just, loses his mind at their projection for good reason. I mean, like Patty Kane has been, he was up in like the mid 7s doing nothing. Now he's 5,400 doing stuff. I just like in one lineup, it just feels absolutely awful clicking in Blackhawks. What are you doing with them?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Kane has done nothing this year, right? Like he does have 5 multi-point games on the season. He has 2 3-point games. Like he's done some stuff. One of those 3-point games came recently. Like a couple of one of the big reasons, or I guess 2 reasons for, that high projection we see here today. One is Kane has been shooting a lot more, and that's something that I did note. I'll reference the Picks article for the 3rd time here. He was at 2.6 shots per game in the first 15 games of the season. That is really, really bad for Patrick Kane. It's been a lot better of late, 4.3 shots per game over his last 10 games. He's still not scoring a lot. Like his shooting percentage, I think, is under 5% for the season. But he's had a couple low seasons in a row now as Chicago's, team has just been in, full-fledged decline for years now. But he is shooting a lot more. Which is why he's probably carrying such a high projection as part of it. The other part is, David Rittich is almost certainly going to start for Winnipeg here tonight, as Connor Hellebuck started last night. I don't know if there's a bigger starter to back up drop-off in the NHL than going from Hellebuck to Rittich. Certainly not this season with the way Vasilevsky's playing in Tampa Bay. Like last year, I would have said maybe Vasilevsky to Brian Elliott. This year with the way Vasilevsky's playing, I wouldn't say that. I'd say it's probably Hellebuck to Rittich. Like Hellebuck is, I was looking at the goals saved above expected, which is, you take the expected goals numbers and how many goals was a goalie expected to allow and how many did he actually allow, and then that accumulates through the season. Like Hellebuck's not far off from saving Winnipeg about 1 goal per game this season, and David Rittich is at about minus 0.5 per game. Like it's a 1.5 goal swing between just the goalies this year. It has been a big, big gap. So that's another reason why you're seeing such a strong Chicago projection. It's not even a terrible matchup if they were going to match against the top line. The problem is that they do like to send that Kyra Dickinson line against opposing top lines.
Huge our season.
And And the Perfetti, Scheifele, Wheeler line is the weaker defensive line of the top two from Winnipeg. So this is actually a coach that's going to galaxy brain himself into putting his top line into a worse matchup. It happens all the time when teams are at home to Carolina as well, or Minnesota, and we'll talk about that later. So it's not a great matchup 5-on-5 for Chicago. It's not even a great matchup on the power play. Like, Chicago's about average in time shorthanded per game, about average or a little below average in power play opportunities. My mistake. In the Winnipeg penalty kill, it's been pretty good basically the entire season. So it's not really a great power play matchup. Like I have no problem playing that top line here tonight, but they're coming in with a ton of ownership, like double-digit ownership. I just don't think I can back them at that ownership level. I really don't. Like, they're one of our most negatively leveraged lines of the night on DraftKings. Not as bad, or on FanDuel, sorry, not as bad on DraftKings, but still, way over owned. If I was playing MME, I would probably have them in a single entry. I think I would honestly just rather play a Kane one-off. Like, I don't want to have to rely on Andreas Athanasiou scoring a goal and assist here tonight. I think more than anything, it's just a Kane one-off. On the Winnipeg side, I think going right back to the top line, I know the Kyle Connor scored twice last night, I think. But even like a Winnipeg power play stack is fine. I think the Winnipeg top line is going to be in a good matchup facing that third line from the Blackhawks. They have been generating a lot of expected goals. They have been generating a lot of goals. Perfetti even has 12 shots in his last 5 games, even though he's not on the power play. So he's getting involved as well. I do like the Winnipeg top line here. Hopefully people kind of overlook the fact that this is a really good matchup for the Jets. I know it's back-to-back on the road, but Chicago sucks, man. Like, there's no way around it. So I do like going back to Winnipeg one, maybe some one-off Patrick Kane on the Chicago side.
Yeah, I do like the call going back to Winnipeg here. It is a big slate, but Chicago poopers. On the blue line here, like Josh Morrissey at 6,500, I guess is fine. I just that price is not fine to me. I mean, if you like Morrissey and you want to include him in the top 2 lines there, go for it. Like, he's fine. It's just too expensive for my taste. On the Blackhawks side, Seth Jones at 5,800, I think is fine. $700 cheaper than Morrissey. Jack Johnson maybe as a punt, but
yeah, Jack Johnson as a punt. This is where we're at this point of the season. I mean, Brendan Dillon is a guy that I don't mind sneaking in. Logan Stanley's projecting pretty well for us. Some more minutes, might be able to get some blocks. So he's another guy that if you need a stone min punt, Logan Stanley definitely playable. On the Chicago side, Connor Murphy's kind of the guy that's sticking out to me. He's a guy I don't want to play when he's like 4,200 on DraftKings. Down at 3,400, I think that seems a lot more palatable for me.
Yeah, don't mind that call there. New York Rangers, 3 total. Heading into Colorado, the Avs have a 2.5 total. Igor Shesterkin probable. Alexander Georgiev confirmed. Arturi Lehkonen skated today, but he is out tonight. Valeri Nichushkin didn't skate today, but he might play. If Nichushkin does play, I would imagine he does go right to that top line with Rantanen, whether he's with Newhook or Charles Hudon, probably Newhook. That top line would be fully correlated on the top power play. I imagine Hudon goes down to the third line with, the Colorado Eagles. Rangers still running back those goofy lines from the other night. Lafreniere, Zibanejad, and Kakko had a pretty good game. Like if the Rangers had good lines here, I'd have more interest in them. I think that top line would be where I would go, just because Kakko and Lafreniere are still really cheap. Zibanejad's on the top power play. Avalanche are so banged up here, but I just don't have too much interest on either side.
This is where I just want to talk a little bit about late swapping lines. Valeri Nichushkin may be back tonight. Now, if he's back, we don't know what lineup combinations are going to be. but they've been pretty consistent on leaving Cogliano, Comfort, and Logan O'Connor together. So I imagine they would just stay together. And then I think Charles Hudon would just get booted from the top line, and then they go with Newhook, Lehkonen, and Valery Nichushkin as the top line. Now, I think off the top of my head, that line is 16,600. Those three guys, particular guys on DraftKings. Now, I know it's a late game, and there's only 4 games starting at that time or later besides that one, but that's a lot of games, and there are different options that you can go to in those late games. Like Vegas 2 is actually a line I like tonight, and they're $1,000 cheaper, so you could just swap to them if Nichushkin isn't out. I'm not sure it's a route I would take in single entry, but Nichushkin won't have any ownership on him here tonight if he's back. And if we can get a top line of Newhook, Rantanen, Nichushkin, that seems fine to me against the Rangers. It doesn't seem like a terrible line offensively. And then, you add Comfort, Makar on the power play. They're starting to look like an actual NHL team again if Nichushkin is back. I think if you're playing a lot of lineups, I think it's kind of worth taking the risk of running some Newhook, Rantanen, Nichushkin combinations, and then late swapping off if that isn't the line. I'm sure there is some sort of Rangers power play stack you could put in its place. Like I said, you can leave some money on the table and drop down to Vegas 2. There are options there. That's just something I would mention. If Nichushkin is out, I wouldn't be playing Colorado. So it would really just entirely hinge on his status. On the Rangers side, it's actually, I guess, what would be their third line technically that I wrote up in the Power Plays article. The reason for that being reasonably priced, one. The other is assuming the Rantanen and the Comfort line go out against the top 6 from the Rangers, which would be the Zibanejad line and the Panarin line. You're going to have Kreider, Trocheck, and VC up against that Colorado bottom 6, which is just loaded with AHLers because of the injuries. Not only that, but you get 2 out of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. The Colorado penalty kill, I don't think it's surprised anybody, has been on a slide since all those injuries started to hit a few weeks ago. So Colorado, one of the most penalized teams in the NHL, above average at 3.6. I think they're around the top 10 or just outside. We know how dangerous the Rangers power play can be. If I'm even strength stacking any line in this game, other than maybe taking a gamble with Nichushkin, Rantanen, Newhook, it would be that third line of Kreider, Trocheck, and VC. If you want to use any of the other Rangers lines, I think they're all in play considering how reasonable their prices are. But I want to get as many players. If I'm even strength stacking line, I want to get as much of that Rangers top power play as I can get. So it's Kreider, Trocheck, and VC for me. Yeah,
the one thing that concerns me about this game, excuse me, it opened at a 6. It's down to a 5.5. Just something to keep in mind. That doesn't have massive effects on DFS. Just interesting to note. If you've never had a Stokastic NHL membership, this is for you. This is for new users only. It's a 3-day risk-free trial. Click the link in the description below, and you get full access to everything NHL has to offer at Stokastic. Projections, ownership, top stacks, rankings, me, Cliffy. I think Discord. Yeah, you join the community. Get in that Discord. We're a weird bunch of dudes and chicas in there. You get everything. You get to get everything test driven for free for 3 days. If you like it, continue. If you don't, you should continue anyway, because that's weird that you didn't like it. And I don't like you if you don't like it. I don't really like I don't hate anybody. But yeah, click the link in the description, get your 3-day free trial. Minnesota Wild, 3.1 total. Heading into Edmonton, the Oilers have a 3.4 total. Marc-Andre can't save a puck to save my life. Fleury, still mad at him for the other night. Stuart Skinner, both probable. Edmonton top line, 25,200 on DraftKings. That's wildly expensive. Of course, Edmonton put up like 8 goals the other night, and it was the first game all season they decided to spread out their scoring. But Edmonton top line not coming in with massive ownership for good reason. They take up like half the salary cap. I still think this is a pretty good spot. Like, they'll probably avoid Joel Eriksson-Ek because, I'm sure they'll have some shifts because Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl played 41 minutes. They're going to have some shifts against Eriksson-Ek, but like for the most part, probably going to go out against Steele, Kaprizov, and Zuccarello. like at this ownership, I think you have to consider him at the price. On the wild side, like again, here we are with these awful 5-on-5 lines. I think you can do some sort of power play stack.
Yeah. I'll just mention, like, if that Edmonton top line is a little bit too expensive, like one thing I've been doing, not a lot, but a couple times, is just using Ryan Nugent-Hopkins instead of Zach Hyman. At least it saves you $1,000. And, $1,000 is $1,000 when you get to the point where you're spending a lot on those top lines. Here's kind of a little bit of my issue with going with the Oilers here tonight. Minnesota doesn't really take a ton of penalties. They're around league average for time shorthanded per game. Their penalty kill has also been very good, which is a little bit worrisome. Like, I know Marc-Andre Fleury has definitely had his bad games this year. But almost half of Connor McDavid's points on the season have come on the power play. If Minnesota can somehow not get wrecked on the man advantage, they can keep McDavid in check. Especially with Jonas Brodin back in the lineup. Like, he's maybe their best defensive defenseman. If not, he's just right, he's right behind Jared Spurgeon. I think there's always reason to play Edmonton at this ownership. Like you said, they're kind of going to be coming in at single digits because of how expensive they are. And I do think there are some lines that you can use with them. Like we talked about the Calgary depth a little bit earlier. I mean, Chicago isn't super expensive depending on who you use. We'll talk a little bit later about Arizona, even though I don't think I'm going to get to Arizona, but maybe even San Jose. Like, there are some cheap players off the top lines as well. Like, there are ways you can go here. I just think, like, if you're looking for a matchup where McDavid might not put up like a 4-point game or something like that, it would be against a team that doesn't take a lot of penalties, that has a really good penalty kill. On the flip side, Minnesota is not coming in with a ton of ownership either. They're coming in at about 6% owned on DraftKings, at least. I should probably clarify that. Over on FanDuel, a little bit less even. And Steele's been really good with them on the top line. 3-point expected goals for, 3 actual goals for. Those are good, not elite offensive numbers, but that's way better at 5-on-5 than what they were doing with anybody else since Ryan Hartman got injured. So he's really helped them turn around their play at 5-on-5. And Edmonton's one of the most penalized teams in the league, 3.8 times shorthanded per game. Minnesota's above average drawing power plays per game. And the Edmonton penalty kill is still awful. I honestly think I like the Minnesota top line on this side. I will never, ever say playing McDavid and Draisaitl together if they're on a line is a bad idea. I don't care if they're going into Boston. I think it's perfectly acceptable. I just think for considering the price and considering the power play matchup, I do like the Minnesota top line in this game. So I think that's the direction I would go in. If you want to take out Steele, make it a little bit more expensive, put in like, Boldy or Eriksson or something like that, I think that's fine. But I really do like this matchup for Kaprizov, Zuccarello, and Steele.
Yeah, I agree. We'll just, leave it at that. Like, Edmonton, for as good as they are offensively, that top line, they're, there's the segment on Twitter we call "Here Come the Oilers" for a reason. They tend to do Oiler things. Let's move to the blue line here. Jonas Brodin is back. I think he's fine. Is 3,700. Alex Goligoski on that top power play unit, 3,100, also fine. Spurgeon, 4,500, also fine. On the Edmonton side, Darnell Nurse, 4,700 would be the guy. Can use Tyson Barrie. You can use Bouchard. I just want to go with the minutes with Nurse.
Yeah, I agree, especially where it's not a particularly good power play spot. I think Nurse makes sense. The Minnesota defenseman conundrum is a little interesting because Michael Russo, one of the, probably the most notable Minnesota beat writer, he mentioned something while we were on the air on Twitter that is a good point. Kalen, it was like a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, Kalen Addison was supposed to be healthy scratched, and then somebody got sick, so Addison ended up playing. But Alex Goligoski was supposed to jump to the top power play unit over Kalen Addison when Addison was supposed to be scratched there a few weeks ago. Obviously, Addison did get scratched. He stayed on the top power play, and he's been there ever since. Jared Spurgeon's the guy that's been getting the secondary power play minutes. He got some top power play time last year, so I assume it'll be Spurgeon. But Goligoski might end up jumping to that top power play. And like I said, it's a pretty good power play spot for Minnesota. I think Goligoski's a fine play, even if he's not on the power play. I just think there's a chance that he gets to that top power play. And I think at his price, like, he might be one of my favorite defensemen on the night.
Yep, I agree. 8 minutes left, 3 games to get through. Let's rock and roll. Boston Bruins 3.7. Such a data. Got to stop that. Boston Bruins 3.7 total heading into Arizona. The Coyotes have a 2.2 total. Jeremy Swayman confirmed. Vejmelka probable. If Ullmark was in net, I'd say I'm not even considering the Coyotes, but Swayman's had a pretty bad year. I guess you can consider the top line for the Coyotes and MME 2.2 total at home is wildly low, though. This is a Boston game for me. I think you can either full stack the top line, you can go the second line, you can even go the third line, but I think my favorite thing to do is power play stack.
Yeah, I'll just briefly mention Arizona. Boston has been much worse defensively on the road. Still good defensively, but not like league leading defensively on the road this season. And it is Swayman in net. I'm not going to the top line. I think they'll probably see that Bergeron matchup. I'm out. It'd be a one-off loss in Krause. That's the one thing that I have interest in on the Arizona side. He's on the power play. He does shoot. He does get a better matchup getting away from Bergeron. Probably lost in Krause one off. Yeah, I mentioned David Pastrnak in the picks article. Pastrnak might be my favorite play on the entire slate here for the simple reason that Arizona is by far the most penalized team in the NHL, 4.3 times shorthanded per game. The Bruins draw 3.8 power plays per game, which is like 6th or 7th in the league. The Bruins could see a lot of power play time in this one. I know they're on the road. Boston power play stack. Whether, take out DeBrus, put in Pastrnak, take out Bergeron, put in Pastrnak as a triple winger. Just use Pastrnak as a one-off. Do a two-man with Pastrnak and McAvoy. Like, there are a lot of ways to go about it. Boston power play, yeah.
Yep. On the blue line, Charlie McAvoy is the power play guy. He'd be the guy for me. Not really super exciting punts either on that side. So on the Arizona side, nothing really.
Troy Stetcher.
Yeah.
He's been blocking some shots, doesn't play a lot of minutes, but he blocks a lot of shots in the minutes that he does play. He does take shots. I don't mind Troy Stetcher, another one of those super cheap guys.
Yeah, don't mind that call. Excuse me, my voice is going nuts here. Let's move to the next game.
Well, where's your goblet?
It's on the kitchen table.
Well, maybe that's why. You should have had your goblet with you. Keep hydrating.
Yeah. My diva, I'm a diva. Whatever. Philadelphia Flyers 2.4 total heading into Vegas. The Golden Knights have a 3.6. Carter Hart, Aiden Hill, probable. Jack Eichel on the ice for skate. Stone on the ice for skate. So if Eichel's in, he'll be opted on that top line with Stevenson and Stone, which would become a 2-center line, but Eichel will take back his power play 1 spot. I think there is big merit to going to both Vegas lines here, especially if Eichel's in. If Eichel is out, Vegas 2 is my preferred option. On the Flyers side, wow. If it is Aiden Hill, I think, I don't think in 1 to 3 I'd get to the Flyers top line, but in MME, I wouldn't hate if I got some organically.
Yeah, one thing to mention while we were on the air, they said Tony DeAngelo is going to be a healthy scratch for the Flyers tonight, which is funny because he just scored a couple games ago. And they called up Cam York. He was in the NHL last year, obviously had I thought a good season, started this year in the AHL. He only had 13 points in 20 games in the AHL, but I was looking at his team, and they're the second lowest scoring team in their conference, I think. York has either scored or assisted on 25% of their goals. So he can run a power play. I haven't been able to check if he's in the player pool I doubt it.
He's not.
Yeah, which kind of sucks. I wouldn't mind playing him. It's a Vegas game for me. I have no interest in the Flyers, especially if DeAngelo's out. He's pretty integral in running that top power play unit. It's Vegas too. I mean, if you want to take a risk with Eichel, I think you can. But if he's out, you only have a couple games to pick from. You would be, kind of boned. I guess you could, maybe go to a San Jose line, leave a couple thousand, do some sort of San Jose power play stack. You could do that. But You just may be screwed if he doesn't play. Just watch for that. So it's Vegas 2 I like here. Marchessault still shooting. They're generating 3.3 expected goals, 3 actual goals per 60 minutes over the last 3 weeks. Really soft matchups against that, second and third line from the Flyers. Vegas 2 is what I like here.
Yep. Last game of the night quickly. San Jose Sharks with a 3.3 total. Heading into Anaheim, the Ducks have a 3.1. E2 Mäkiniemi is confirmed. John Gibson probable. I like Sharks power play here. I do think there is some merit to going to the Ducks top line.
Yeah, the Ducks top line pretty good this season. 3.2 goals per 60 minutes. Both Terry and Zegras have been shooting at 5-on-5 of late. I mean, Terry shoots all the time, but it's Zegras shooting more at 5-on-5. That's nice to see. A bit of a tougher matchup. I wish that going into San Jose won, but you never know with these goalies. Any goalie can have a good night on any given night, but San Jose has definitely had their struggles at 5-on-5 this year. I think Anaheim's top line's coming with a bit too much ownership for me, but I think they're perfectly fine. I like Troy Terry a lot here tonight, just in general. On the San Jose side, it probably would be some sort of power play stack, especially with Barabanov back in the lineup next to Couture. You can do a relatively cheap Barabanov Couture 2-man, add in Timo Meier, make it extra power play stack, but the Anaheim penalty kill is just absolutely awful. So focus on the San Jose power play guys. I think a 2-man of Couture Barabanov is a nice, reasonably cheap 2-man to use here tonight.
Yep, agreed there. Goalie is an absolute mess tonight. What are you doing?
John Gibson was the guy I wrote up. He's fairly cheap on both sites here tonight. He's had some pretty big games this year, despite the fact that, and it's because Anaheim allows so many shots, right? Like he faces the most shots per game of any goalie in the league. So I do like Gibson at a cheap price. Don't mind Vitek Vanacek either if you want to pay up a little bit. The New Jersey goalie, I guess Igor's fine. I guess in that matchup. And of course, King Karl Vejmelka returns home to the College Stadium. If he's starting, I don't mind Vejmelka either.
Yeah, I'll add in Arvid Soderblom. It could be a rocky ride, but he will see the volume. Who is your hat trick pick tonight?
Just talked about him. Said I like him as a one-off. Hopefully the Ducks can do some damage tonight. I'm going with Troy Terry.
I'm going to continue my Spice Tour and go Alexis Lafreniere.
Spice Tour? That's is that like a Dune reference or a Star Wars reference?
I wish I was smart enough to say Spice Girls, but I didn't really think of what I was doing when I said it.
I suppose you want to be my podcast mate.
Yes, I'm gonna start the show with that now. Okay. You created a monster. Smash that like button. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, for some hockey talk with some energy drinks. So for Cliffy, I am Josh. You know who we are by now. Smash the like. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck tonight.